Good evening. I call the meeting to order. Mr. Clerk.
I believe you have some speaking notes. Thank you, Your Worship. The first part of this evening is our regular public hearing item, and I would invite the Chair to give some introductory remarks.
Thank you very much. Good evening. I'm Acting Mayor Brent Asmussen. Mayor Stewart is along with Mayor Moore, Mayor Clay out of Port Moody. They're doing their version of summer vacation going across Canada, so they will be back. So I'm taking the role of Acting Mayor tonight. On behalf of City Council, I'd like to welcome everyone this evening. This is a public hearing into the bylaws that will be introduced to you in a moment by the City Clerk. Council for the City of Coquitlam has given first reading to these bylaws and directed that a public hearing be held. Staff from the City's Planning and Development Department will present a summary of the proposed bylaw. The floor will then be opened to anyone in attendance that wishes to present his or her views on the proposed bylaw. Those that have pre-registered will be given first opportunity to speak. I stress to all of you that this is a public hearing. It's an opportunity for anyone who has a view on the proposed bylaw to make that view known to council members. Council members are here with an open mind and are here to listen to your input. No one has prejudged the outcome of this application. It is not a question and answer period. It is not an opportunity to debate the merits of the proposed bylaw with either council members, staff, or those in the audience who may oppose to the particular view. I ask that you restrict your comments to the proposed bylaw. Be as brief and concise as possible. We are asking speakers to respect the 5-minute time limit in order that everyone who wishes to speak is able to do so. Speakers are permitted to speak more than once, only if they are providing new additional information. I ask that the audience be respectful of each speaker and allow that speaker to make his or her point of view without interruption. Please refrain from clapping, cheering, booing any presentation that is made this evening. As chair of this hearing, I reserve the right to conclude any presentation that does not relate to the bylaw, becomes abusive, or becomes repetitive of the views that the speaker has already made known to council members. Please note that if you wish to provide a written submission to be included to the record of the meeting, you must hand that submission to the clerk prior to the adjournment of the regular item on the agenda. Please also note, council may not receive any additional information, written or verbal, after the adjournment of a public hearing and prior to the consideration of respective bylaws at the next council meeting. Immediately following the adjournment of the public hearing tonight, a regular council meeting will convene in order that may give consideration to the items on the public hearing agenda. However, if during the public hearing council requests further information related to an item, consideration of that item will be deferred pending receipt of the request of information. I will now call on Mr. Gilbert to introduce the other bylaws on tonight's agenda and planning and development staff to make their presentations on the first item. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The first item is an application to amend City of Coquitlam zoning bylaw 3000 to rezone the property at 1649 Como Lake Avenue from RS1 one-family residential to C1 local commercial. This is bylaw number 4484.
Your Worship and members of Council, my name is Michael Dollywell, a development planner with the City. This site is located in southwest Coquitlam, west of Poirier Street, on the north side of Como Lake Avenue at 1649 Como Lake Avenue. The site is designated one family residential in the official community plan. Zoning on the site and to the west and north is RS1 one family residential. Zoning to the east is C1 local commercial, and zoning to the south is P1 civic institutional. The subject site is currently vacant. The applicant is seeking to rezone the subject site to C1 local commercial. consolidate it with the already zoned C1 site to the east, 1665 Como Lake, and develop a 619 square meter, or 6,658 square feet, one-story, four-unit local commercial development. Staff are recommending second and third readings to bylaw number 4484, 2014.
Thank you. We have no list. Do we have a list of speaker? One?
Yes, Mr. Chair, we have one person who's pre-registered. I'd like to invite Dion de La Salle of the Ani Group to come forward, and they're speaking on behalf of the applicant.
Welcome.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I have a short presentation for the rezoning of 1649 Como Lake Avenue, and just wanted to start out with some site context. It is located directly adjacent to the Chevron gas station, to the east, residential, to the west and to the north of the property, Parkland Elementary School right across the street, located on Como Lake Avenue, a key arterial road. The current state of the property, the RS1 portion, sits on the west side of the site and remains an unpaved vacant lot. An old rundown retail building remains on the other half of the property. The site has remained vacant for years and recently has had some issues with break-ins, trespass, vandalism, theft of copper piping. A couple of images here of the current state of the property, looking east towards the gas station, and again, looking straight north from Parkland of the existing commercial building. The C1 zoning versus the Tideways proposal, this site will allow up to 20,320 square feet, and we have proposed, we believe, a modest 6,658 square feet, which translates into a 0.34 FSR on a possible 1.05, one-third the density, allowable density. And the allowable height is 25 feet with 2 stories, and we have proposed 18-foot high ceilings with 1 story. A couple of renderings, this one looking west, the commercial building set back off of Como Lake Avenue. And then looking east, so the rendering does include the gas station for some scale with the significant landscaping off of Como Lake. 2 images here for the landscape plan. One on the left is does show the way that we have tried to address some of the comments and concerns on screening, noise, trespass, and buffer zones from the public open house that we did hold. We've worked with Sharp and Diamond Landscape Architects to figure out the best screening options, and the elevations on the right actually show the proposed trees. They would be 15 to 20 feet when planted, so they would provide immediate screening and grow up to 30 feet. So the elevation on the right-hand side is essentially the image that you would see looking south from the residential neighborhood. Why commercial at this location? The property is located along a key arterial road and consistent with policy CC14 in the Southwest Coquitlam area plan and supported by staff. The property provides walkable convenience retail. It's an underdeveloped site. It has been in its current state for the last 25 years. There is a shortage of retail space in the immediate area with limited vacancies and exclusivities in Como Lake Village, and it is located right next to a gas station. The timeline and process thus far for us has been a pre-application in the fall, followed by a delegation to council. We did do an open house, which I'll touch on December 4th. We revised drawings based on the pre-application staff comments and the open house comments and made a formal rezoning DP application in January, directed to move forward with a Phase 2 environmental completed in March. Comments were received from the city and then resubmitted in April, and first reading was achieved May 5th. Our open house summary was held across the road at Parkland with 25 to 30 attendees. There wasn't much specific feedback in terms of the commercial design, as traffic seemed to be the main point of discussion. There are issues that did come up: landscaping and the screening used, the height of the building, tenant mix, amount of parking, and through the 3 rounds of drawings, we do believe we have addressed these concerns and comments. There was a community feedback and petition submitted to council. Many residents in Coquitlam are familiar with the site and supportive of moving forward with a development that fits within the neighborhood on the commercial side. Petition of support submitted does show support from the immediate neighborhood, which moves us to our next slide. The immediate neighborhood, the white balloons indicate support in the neighborhood, and there was some non-support letters and comments submitted from the balloons in red. And last but not least, this slide is a site plan looking at the traffic circulation. There is one access point per staff direction off of Como Lake. We have worked with Chevron to provide the reciprocal easement on the east side of the site, which does help the flow of traffic and parking on site. We did engage traffic engineers at IBI to look at the overall impact of this development in relation to the current traffic counts along Como Lake, and they did not want to move forward with a traffic study because they didn't think the numbers generated by this proposed development were insignificant in the overall traffic flow along Como Lake. So I look forward to answering any specific questions on the development.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Sikora.
Yeah, thank you very much. I'm glad Don, he wound up with it. They're one of our good developers in the city, as there's many other developers good in the city. I'd like to ask you some questions, though. You got 4 stores in there on the bottom floor. And I noticed that in the pictures you're using produce and deli and coffee shop and that type of thing. What are the uses? Can you tell me what the uses are roughly?
Well, the C1 zoning is quite specific, and each time we've been back and forth with staff seeing if it is allowable, because it is quite limited zoning. We are working with the same broker that does represent Como Lake Village, and so he is familiar with what kind of tenants want to be in the neighborhood. He's gone out to coffee shops, flower shops, small grocers. There's a few small specialty grocers that need up to, say, 5,000 square feet. So the way that it's demised right now is our best guess. We don't have any tenants in hand, and so this is our best guess of the uses that we think will...
And what can I see on the second floor?
There is no
residential or...
It's only a one-story.
Only one floor.
There were comments from the city that did want to see the design appear to have the look of 2 stories, but it is only 1 story. That was
1 story. Okay.
Those were design comments.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Hodge.
Yes, so 3 main issues raised by the residents of the open house: traffic, tenant mix, and landscaping. Landscaping, there's trees across the back currently. Are they coming down?
They would come down in this, whichever one's on our property line, and then new ones to have specific screening. There's a specific species that's been picked out that are 15 to 20 feet when planted and would provide. And there would also be fencing as well. That's because trespass and loitering were also a couple of the comments that were raised.
Okay. Building, I thought I heard you say 18 feet?
Yes.
High? And so the trees are 15 to 20, so they're within the range of the building height as they go in. Okay. Traffic. This one to staff. The left turn coming, well, any time we're stopping traffic on Como Lake to make turns, I think that's a concern. I noticed when I drove by the other day, we've got that, what I call the yellow island. It's not a real island, but it's not big enough for a car to sit there. The further west you go, the narrower that becomes. I know there's a sort of a left turn in there now, but it's further to the east. I see this driveway is at the west end of the property. Is there room to put even a bit of a left turn bay on Como Lake there?
Through you, Your Worship, the intent at this time is to for traffic to be restricted by the median, which it's a painted median this time, and it's mimicking a constructed median, which limits no left in and no left out. So that's not something that staff has considered at this time. An additional left turn in, it's something that I think our traffic operations people may have concerns about on our arterial road in that close proximity to the next intersection.
It is a painted median, but people use it as a safety spot currently. So they sit there to make the left turn just before they get to the gas station. So it's being used that way. It's not quite long enough, and it certainly doesn't extend far enough to the west. Given there's a development going on across the street, which I understand means that we're pulling those houses back, that would be on the Parkland site. Is there any potential to widen Como Lake by 2 or 3 feet as we come up there and to put a left turn in there?
Too close to
That's where I'm going with this.
Through your worship, I don't have those details in front of me today. It's something that I don't know if our engineer has any comments on at this time, but it's something that we could talk to our traffic ops people. In terms of space, there may well be space available. In terms of operational concerns, I think it will raise operational concerns to provide a left turn from Como Lake at that location.
Okay. Just didn't know if our engineer Joseph was going to weigh in on that.
And to Mr. Dozaki.
Yeah, through your worship, I just want to mention that given the classification of Como Lake Avenue and the proposal's vicinity to the intersection, a left turn at this location would not be desirable.
But we're not planning to put a median down there at this point. So what we have is an unofficial left or an illegal left taking place in there.
Mr. Dozaki? I guess also we could say that these questions could be, if we're going to second and third.
It's going to go to the DP. I'm just because I note that the 3 issues that were raised were traffic, tenant mix, and landscaping, and this to me is the key. Or if all traffic is going to go make the left at Poirier, then go north on Poirier and come through the Chevron gas station to get in there.
Mr. Dozaki?
I'd like to add that our traffic operations staff reviewed this application, and as much as we would not like to see a left turn there, at the same time we did not request a medium, a constructed medium at this location, because there are other considerations that would go against that. In other words, whenever you introduce a median, in itself, it can create some sort of a traffic hazard for the traveling public. And with the traffic volumes at this location, traffic operations decided not to ask for the median.
Okay. And the next question, tenant mix, that has come up. Again, we don't know what's going to be there because it hasn't been built, it hasn't been leased. The C1 is restrictive. I'm just trying to remember what is in C1. Can we have a convenience store there? We did before with the old Harbor Mart. Can we put a 7-Eleven in there?
I guess I go through to staff for that.
Staff?
Your worship, the permitted uses in the C1 zone are grocery stores, specialty food retail, personal services, retail sale of flowers, retail sale of Christmas trees, and various accessory uses. So, I suppose the 7-Eleven would fit into one of those.
Okay. Fast food? No, they can't put a fast food place in there.
No, your worship.
Okay, and I'm presuming not a dry cleaner either.
Dry cleaner is one of the permitted uses.
Dry cleaner could be permitted. Okay, thank you.
Okay. Councillor O'Neill.
Yeah, thank you. And I don't have questions for Mr. De La Salle, but it's for staff. Just on really basic things here. Make sure I understand. The present OCP designation is one-family residential, but the requested OCP designation, no change. So it can still be one-family residential and have the C1 local commercial?
Through your worship, the way the OCP has been worded for C1 local commercial is you wouldn't have to redesignate the site to commercial to permit the commercial use.
You would not have to?
No, it's
okay.
policy CC 14, I think, or...
Okay, good, thank you.
Yeah.
So the former usage from many, many years ago, the market, and there was nursery equipment in there and stuff like that, that would have been allowed under the OCP. Was that actually not it's always been zoned one-family residential. So was the former use of that lot non-conforming usage? Harbor Mart and all that stuff, was that stuff operating outside of the bylaw provision?
It's my understanding, and Erica, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but is that there's an adjoining C1 use that there's two properties associated with this application. We're considering a rezoning associated to the one residential property, so the other property did have those other uses on it.
Okay, good. That's all I wanted to clear up. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks.
And I'll call for speakers, and I'll call, after I call 3 times, that will make that this item be closed. So I'll call, is there any other speakers to this item? Please come forward. Your name and address for the record, please.
My name is Jerry Stewart. I live at 1640 Spray Avenue. That property is immediately to the north of these two properties. It overlaps the residential and the commercial. Seems like only yesterday we were here with the last go-around on this thing. I've lived in this property since April Fool's Day, 1972. And it's been nothing but a pain in the butt from that time and before. I bought the house off the person who built it. He had nothing but problems with people coming up the street, through his yard, over the fence, and into the harbor market. He got to the point where there's a little brick wall in the back of my yard, and he smeared grease all over the top of it, so people sneaking through the yard will subject themselves to that. There's been damage to my own property, broken windows, transients, stolen bicycles, damage to the rear fence, people climbing over it, young and old. So, just a couple of notes. I understand there was one of the councilmen came around to the neighborhood some time ago and talked to the people, talked to some of the people. He certainly didn't come to my place. And he suggested that he was speaking to the people on behalf of all the council, and it was council's position that they wanted to see development along Como Lake like there is at Austin and Blue Mountain. I don't know his name for sure. Is there a council? Donaldson?
Who?
Donaldson? That's the name.
Don't know anything about him.
Okay. Then the person gave me the wrong name, but he produced some sort of identification. Now to talk about what you can put into these 4 different properties. There's no need for any more equipment, goods. Just down the street, there's the Como Lake Village. There's some 20 stores in there. Banks, Pets, Starbucks, a variety of everything you need. What are 4 more going to do other than create traffic and a hazard for the school kids that will soon, if anything goes on there, soon see what's there and on their breaks across the street. There you got kids running across the street. What do you think could happen? Anything could go wrong? No. And additional to that, there's with 4 of these things, as I've suffered, there's crime in the area. There's crime been in that area when there was a garden shop just there. I came out of on my back porch, and I can see right into that property, and there was a whole bunch of little plants all over the back of my backyard. What people would do at night, through my yard and the yard next door, which has been recently rezoned and developed into 2 lots, come in there, break into the garden shop at night, and exit through my place or the place next door. I don't know how many of you people have that problem in your backyard. It's in mine, and it has been. I talked about traffic in and out, and that somebody's come to an arrangement with the Chevron gas station to have, can't make an illegal left-hand turn. There's no room there to do it. You just widen that street and put in new sidewalks. Yeah. So anyway, traffic is going to come in through the Chevron gas station. What happens when you have a big B-train gas truck in there? That entrance on Poirier is plugged. Cars are going in and out, in and out, in and out like this at the best of times. Now you're going to put 4 more buildings down there with, what, 20 parking spots? You got to think that one through. Somebody mentioned a 7-Eleven. Well, that's all I need next to my place is a 7-Eleven that goes 24 hours a day, car doors in the middle of the night slamming in and out. It's not an area that's conducive to family-style living. And as you've all heard, that RS1 is what was there when I moved in. There was a little house, and it was functioning as a family house. It was eventually torn down and just left the ground was left fallow, and the garden shop just expanded and expanded and expanded. What's happened now, there's some wire fencing on this property that actually encloses part of the residential property. The city's been made aware of it several times. They've sent people around to look at it. I've talked with them. But there's about an 8-foot, 9-foot fence that seals off residential property so that the garden shop could use it. Exiting onto Como Lake, this is traffic again, exiting onto Como Lake, if you're going to come in one way through a gas station that's got about 9 bays in it already and complicated by delivery trucks that go to the food court that they have in there. So traffic is going to be in these places. How does it exit? If it goes out onto Como Lake and can't make a left-hand turn, they'll be doing it anyway. You wait for a hole in the traffic and make a run for it. If you lived where I did and you hear the sirens that go up and down Como Lake Road ad nauseum, that's not a good idea either. And I don't know what's number one on Coquitlam's hit parade as far as car accidents, but Como Lake and Poirier's got to be up there. Now you're going to put more houses over here. You got a school. You're looking at a potentially disaster. And security on the back. I noticed another map that was up there. Going to put in some nice little trees. Well, I mentioned earlier that there's people, young and old, that go through that area. So I'm wondering what provisions, if this does happen, what provisions will be made to erect some sort of a barrier to prevent people from doing that. Fence that's in there now, I think, is over the limit. What's used on can be used on property in Coquitlam. I noticed there was a little map up here about balloons and who've been questioned and what the results are. White balloons here, white is good, red ones, red are bad. And I notice also, this is the same tactic that was used the last time around. The real estate agent with Mr. So, who is a Burnaby resident, God bless him, they went around the neighborhood as far as 300 meters away and asked softball questions like, what would you think, because Art Knapp's was interested in this one time, what would you think if we put in a nice coffee shop there and then maybe had some muffins, and when you come to do your shopping for flowers, you could sit down and have a coffee? Who's going to say no? They've never seen the circumstance from my view. That's softball questions. I'm wondering why, he went to a neighbor who's also immediately adjoined to this property and was told to leave, get away. No, do you want to buy my house? Things of that nature. It's a neighborhood. And you can't just turn everything into like North Road, like a strip mall all the way down Como Lake Road. Where do you stop? There's no need for the place. I know, redundant on that issue. The empty lot, the current owner has been less than diligent in looking after it. Coquitlam has a bylaw that says after snow falls and stops for 24 hours, you're supposed to shovel. He doesn't. They tried to hire me to do it once, former real estate agent they had. Weeds grow all over the place. People come there in trucks, dump furniture. Kids come in there at night, and I don't think there's anybody in this building that couldn't identify the smell of marijuana because kids park there. It detracts from my property value. I have a friend that's in real estate, has been for 20-some years. And he says that my property would be worth $20,000 to $25,000 more if that unsightly mess wasn't there. A lot of people saying, okay, well, let's get some nice, neat buildings in there, and that solves that problem. Not my estimate or the estimate of some of the other people in the immediate area, the ones that are affected. What I suggest the city does to do away with this issue is what I suggested and others the last time around and before that. If you're going to rezone it, go ahead, rezone it all residential. Never mind this commercial stuff. There's a big shopping center just down the road. You go the other way, there's a couple of stores. You go down, can't think of the name of the street.
Okay. Are you almost done?
Yeah, I'm almost done. And then there's also the Lougheed Mall, and there's the Coquitlam Center. There's no shortage of places for people to buy stuff. It doesn't have to be in my and others' backyard.
Okay, we have a question. Councillor Wilson.
Thanks for coming tonight. Can you said you had problem with people going through your lot?
Yes.
Into this property?
Yes. Through my gate, through my yard, over the fence, into the garden shop when it was working, and the Harbor Mart. So now you want to put 4 stores in there.
Since you rebuilt your house, and have a new
I didn't rebuild my house.
Oh, sorry, I thought you said you redeveloped the property.
No.
Oh, my mistake, sorry. So is that still happening?
Yes. There's a fence in my backyard that is stone bricks about this high. The former operator, Rose and Bill was their name, ran the garden shop, erected a fence a little bit higher, a wire thing that soon suffered damages. There's a telephone pole in my backyard that I put a gate, again, like a physical gate that you would find in a chain link fence. That's been torn off, climb up over, and it fell over. So there's that. There's windows that were broken. There's bicycles that have been stolen by people going to the store in that location. Now you want to put 4 of them in there. Maybe 4 different types of stores. Maybe you'll have 4 different types of crooks instead of just one.
What would you like to see in the commercial lot?
I don't want to see
There's a residential lot and there's a commercial lot.
Okay, yeah, you've got a residential and commercial.
Yeah.
You're going to rezone one to the other. Rezone them all residential. The people that are promoting this operation don't live in the neighborhood. They don't care what goes on in the neighborhood. They're going to build these properties, hopefully get easements from the city to go in and put in 4 different types of shops. And you'll never see them again. So, I mean...
So it's my understanding, though, if the city was to want to rezone the commercial lot to a residential lot, we would have to most likely pay some compensation to the owner because we would be lowering the value of that lot. Is that correct?
Mr. Randich, it's grandfathered in that zoning that we couldn't.
That's my question is, could we actually do that? I don't think we could, right?
No.
Well, we can put a man on the moon. You can rezone a lot.
No, we can't.
Well, then you can't do this one.
Well, that's the owners applying for the rezoning, not the city.
Yeah, through your worship, the applicant or the owner hasn't applied to rezone to residential. If they were to apply for residential rezoning, council would consider that. But certainly there would be potential for claim if the city was to consider downzoning, if that was what we're referring to.
Okay. You'd expressed concern that there'd be a 7-Eleven store. There's already a convenience store in the gas station.
Why put in two?
Yeah, so I don't think there would be a 7-Eleven. I guess is what I'm wondering about.
Why put in?
Yeah, no, I think that's all the questions I had. Thanks.
Okay.
There's a big shopping center just down the street.
Okay.
Within walking distance.
Yeah, we've heard that. Councillor Sikora.
Thank you very much. You know, you're talking about when you look at that property that's there now, you know, without a doubt, it brings crime to the area. No doubt about it, because of the structure of the place and everything else, and vacated buildings and a few other things. But if you get a brand new development there, I think you're going to find that the crime is going to go away from that area.
Well, if you could put 4 houses on that property, that would do away with the crime issue also.
Mr. Sikora?
And there are residents in that Harbor Market store. They're rats, but they're there and have been for a long time.
Okay, thank you.
I think what happens that, in fact, if that's exactly what I'm saying, there's rats there. Certainly, when it's demolished, the rats will be gone.
And then you could put up 3 or 4 residential properties, get tax dollars from that. Coquitlam would get more revenue from tax dollars there. I'm just going to close by saying it's a residential area. It was when we moved in. The place was torn down. Something was supposed to happen with it, but Coquitlam, the city itself, kept letting that harbor market expand and expand and expand. What brought this whole thing to a head a few years ago was all the parking that was going on right next to the fence. One of the neighbors that lives there stopped hanging her clothes up on the line because there was dust coming out of that dry old gravel lot. They wanted to, Coquitlam said, let's pave it. We'll oil it. It's been a freaking monkey show for years.
Okay. Are you done, Councillor Sarko?
Yeah, thank you.
Okay. Councillor Zarilla, please.
Yeah, hi, thank you so much for coming. I just wanted to ask, I think your property is the entire area. So I just wanted to ask you, because you mentioned that you do have a gate that comes through the back, so I'm thinking that perhaps you like to use that access as well.
The gate is at the far end of my lot, which across the back is about 138 feet. It's at the far west end, nowhere near the cement fence.
Okay.
The gate I was talking about is, here's the end of the cement fence. Here's a telephone pole. It's been decommissioned. I took an old metal gate that I had and fitted in between the two of them, the end of the cement fence and the pole, and secured it in there. What's happened to that is people have climbed over it. The webbing on the chain link is sunk to this degree, and the whole thing has finally become detached.
Okay, because the reason I was asking is I'm wondering how you would feel, or if it would solve some of the problem, if on the drawing here that there is a proper, whether it's a stone fence or a brick fence that would be high enough to create some kind of a barrier, or do you want to have access to be able to come on towards Como Lake from your property?
No, I can't get to Como Lake from my property unless I trespass through the harbor market or the residential lot that's there, or the property next to it, which is also behind me.
So if there was a more permanent structure, not a landscaping, but an actual, let's say, a 6-foot or so brick or permanent fence, would that be of benefit to you to stop the trespassers coming through?
Well, if they can climb over a 5-foot fence, can they climb over a 6-foot fence? Have you seen the average high school kid that's now about 6'2" and is going over for a juice? They go over a stone fence. That's the end of that. They just get a little more exercise getting over the fence.
So you don't see that as helping?
The only solution that I really see that I could support is stop this nonsense about trying to rezone and pump in more and more and more commercial stores into an area that doesn't need them through some process. Make it a park. Develop the things so they're residential properties and sell them. I know it's Como Lake right there, and the properties wouldn't bring as much, but as much wasn't paid for them because of that same issue. If you're thinking any houses that are built now are very large, just go down Como Lake to the 1500 block. There's a little corner store there, south side of the road, with a monster house behind it. Same thing, 2 blocks away, there's a little corner store on that street I can't think of the name of. There's a corner store, and beside it is another monster house. It's no deterrent. If you build it, they will come. You put residential property there, the price point will be what it sells for. It'll be obviously less than a house 2 blocks back.
Okay.
But it'll still be a residential neighborhood.
Okay. Is that it, Councillor?
Yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you. We have no other questions. Thank you very much for your information.
Okay, thank you.
Call for speakers. Are there any other speakers to this item, please? Name and address for the record, please.
Bart Wisnowski of 845 Thermal Drive. Our family's been in the area since, I think, 1993. We reviewed the plans, and I'd like to say we're in support of them. The reason being is that being in an area for such a long time, it's a great area, and we like a lot of things about it. I guess a couple of the downfalls is that, the only place we really have to get things is Como Lake, and it's not always that you can get to Como Lake everything you need. So many times I find myself jumping in the car with the kids and the wife and going to Coquitlam Center, sitting in traffic for 25, 30 minutes if we leave at the wrong time. I just think something like this would, like it was mentioned before, that property's been sitting there like that for a long time, and I think it's nice to have walkable places from where we live. I remember when it was that. When they used to sell the garden stuff, I was able to walk over as a kid and buy some plants for my mom and stuff like that. So that's why I think we're in support of it.
Okay. Thank you very much. Got no questions for it. Thank you very much.
Cool. Thanks.
Any other speakers to this item, please? Okay. We have the woman up there, then you'll be next, sir. Take your time. I will. Name and address for the record.
Good evening, Your Honor and the councillors. I'm Pauline Hing of 1632 Como Lake Avenue. I live across the road from this proposed properties here. First of all, I'll say it is a residential area. The owners or the representatives were comparing the commercial area at Austin and Blue Mountain with this location, which is Poirier and Como Lake. You cannot compare the two. We all know Austin and Blue Mountain is a commercial area. Our area, Poirier and Como Lake, is 90% plus residential area. These 2 lots, the C1, as you said, it is commercial, and they can do, the owner is allowed to do what he would like to do on a commercial basis. The residential lot is residential. I think the residential lot should be kept as residential, and the commercial lot, he can easily put in a duplex there, because seeing it's commercial, I think he's allowed a duplex.
There's no non-commercial. It's not a residential zone.
Are you sure?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. I thought a duplex could go there. Anyway, even if he kept his commercial lot as commercial, then at least put in what he wants there. That's only one little property. My second point is, but my main point was he was comparing Austin and Blue Mountain with Poirier We have a school opposite. This is the third time I'm here to tell the council here that there's a school across there. I live next door to the property that you passed, the 8 houses.
We know. Yes, thank you.
And now you're going to do that. I heard someone mention 20 parking spaces. How can they get out into Como Lake? And they're talking about going through the gas station. I fill up there whenever I have to. Sometimes, like my neighbor just said, when the big trucks go, the big tanker go in there to fill up, and I'm going in, I have to go up Poirier, turn back, and try to get in the opposite way. And yes, a lot of them cross into their left turn, which is dangerous. It's too near to the light. I go right up Poirier, turn back so that I'm on the correct side. I don't know. I think it's a hazard trying to put for the traffic. Yep. The safety of the school children, again, I'm saying it's not good. And I have another point here. Okay, I mentioned that. If they were thinking of a 7-Eleven, it's not fair. It's a residential neighborhood. I hear the cars at the gas station, and I live across the road. The neighbor next door, it's just right there. I don't think it's fair for council to allow people who own property there to me, they're going to be asking to rezone a residential to a commercial and upset the neighbors in a residential area. Poirier and Como Lake, I repeat, is not a commercial area.
Okay, thank you very much. Other speaker to this item, sir, come forward. Name and address for the record, please.
My name is Chris Day. I'm at 826 Levis Street, which is about 3 or 4 properties to the north of the property in question. Like the other speaker here, I do want to express my support for the proposal. Frankly, I've lived in Coquitlam since 1975. Formerly down the road some. I've owned that property that I currently reside in since I guess 2003. Like everybody else, I've seen various states and condition of that one particular property. I have also taken my kids to that little garden store to pick up various plants and whatnot from my parents, and frankly, I do support commercial business in that area that I can walk to and that I can access without having to get into my car. I like to use the area. My kids do go to Parkland Elementary School, kindergarten, grade 2. That school, frankly, does only support kids up to grade 5. And to my knowledge, no kids are allowed to cross Como Lake from that school. I don't frankly see how that would impact anybody at the school, frankly. Anyway, I'll leave it there, but I do want to express my support for the proposal. Thanks.
Thank you very much. Any other speakers to this item, please? Come forward.
Toss a coin. Who comes first?
Yeah. Name and address for the record, please.
Name is Wekesser, and we're at 1641 Como Lake. We are next door to the property in question. I hear a lot of talk about commercial and bringing commercial into the neighborhood, and I understand that. But I also understand that Coquitlam Plaza, which is at the end of the Como Lake Road, is in major development now for commercial and residential, so there will be more commercial there. There's development at Blue Mountain and Austin, residential and commercial. There will be more commercial there. There's the Como Lake Village that has, right now, commercial, and a terrible parking lot. I'm not sure how many councillors have actually tried to park in that lot.
We know.
Awful, isn't it?
We know.
Oh, my goodness. Yes, pretty, but not the greatest for cars. And then there's also the Austin station, which is at Austin and Mariner, and they also have commercial. The Austin one and the Como Lake Village one at times have had difficulty leasing some of their commercial space. So I'm wondering how 4 more commercial spaces in this close of proximity would actually benefit Coquitlam. And one of the things that was discussed was a possibility of a coffee shop or a convenience store. The Chevron gas station supplies coffee, they supply donuts, they supply muffins, they supply milk, pop, candy for the kids, Slurpees. I like my Slurpees. So I don't see so much of a small retail store like that being a great use to that spot right there, especially to Chevron. I could see Chevron being very upset with something like that going in, because that would take away from their monies that they bring in every day. There's one thing that I noticed that wasn't on that. Now it was kind of hard to see it on, from the back, and one of the things that was brought up at the meeting at Parkland, the drop-in session, was what about deliveries to this new commercial lot? Where is the bay for that? I didn't really see it on the development. And the garbage pickup, large commercial garbage pickup, where would that be? I think that could maybe be a problem to the commercial lot. And I really don't see how great it would be used. And I'm guessing that for using the Chevron gas station as an entrance exit to that commercial lot could probably cause some challenges again to the Chevron, to customers that use that spot to pick up small items for home, milk, pop, whatever, and get gas. So I see that really quite a congested little area right there trying to go in and out with cars. I think that could be a real problem.
There is the other entrance off the other side of the development. It's just not that entrance. There's a, you look at the drawing there, there's to the west, there's an entrance exit off there.
Yeah, the entrance section right on there,
But that's also, they have an agreement with Chevron to use the lot. So Chevron, if they didn't have an agreement, wouldn't allow them to use the lot. So Chevron doesn't see it as an issue.
Okay. I wasn't sure, but I wanted to bring that up. I'm not sure if Chevron had thought about that. So that's all I really have to share, because many people have said, a few people have said other things that we have felt also, but I just wanted to bring up those points to Council.
Councillor O'Neill?
Yeah, it's really hard to read on the printout we have in our booklet and on the map up there, but on the west side at the top left corner, you see a little door swinging open there, and the words next to that are something/recycle, right there. And below that, that says loading. So you ask questions about where the loading would be. That's loading, and garbage recycling is above it there. Thank you for that adroit little circling of the hand. Perfectly. Yeah, so you asked that question, so that's where it's happening there.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you very much. Come forward. Name and address, please.
My name is Manfred Heap, 1427 Summit Drive. We're a few blocks away from there, but I consider this part of our neighborhood. We walk through that area very regularly. We drive down through there. Como Lake Shopping Village is our home turf. And we attended the meeting that was held, the preliminary, and walked through this. We kind of went into it a little bit open-mindedly. We didn't have any firm plans in our head about it. All thoughts were that something needs to be done with that property. And it was really good to attend this and listen to all of the other folks that were there to get a really good feel for their problems with this. And the gentleman that was right behind, I 100% agree that this is a real big concern for anybody that's living there. Where I have a real problem with this is I run through this situation in my mind so often trying to figure out how these folks, the developers, as nice as they are and as accommodating as they are, I just can't see this coming together the way they have it planned. The whole key of this is that Chevron business. They already have an established business. It's growing. They're the only gas station around there. And every time I go by there, there's even more and more cars in there. It's not going to get smaller. I can't see any more gas stations moving into the neighborhood. They've got a sewn-up business there for now. The whole premise of this commercial lot is their traffic flow through that chevron, and no matter how you look at it, they cannot make that work. If something goes in there where there's a high traffic flow, businesses like 7-Eleven attract a large turnover clientele. There's no way that Chevron is going to put up with that for any length of time. All of a sudden, they don't even have right now any set clients that would be going in there. So if they can lease it and they can get a client in there that all of a sudden now is no longer a symbiotic relationship with the business that Chevron is running, the whole thing could fall apart. Chevron could throw out the doors and say, no, we don't want any more traffic through our business. It's not going to happen. I don't like the traffic flow through this. I don't like the idea that there's no way for these people that are exiting to make a left-hand exit anywhere. There's nowhere for them to go easily. The only way that I could see this work is if it does turn into a commercial environment, is to have it with a really light focus on, let's say, an architectural office, lawyers, or something that doesn't attract a lot of business. It's a quiet type of environment, and it's not going to attract the nighttime riffraff that would be very disturbing to the folks that live behind.
Okay. Thank you very much.
The other point, quick point too, is that Como Lake Village has, since they've done a fairly large remodel there a few years back, they've had 2 or 3 business opportunities for lease in there for a long time, and they can't attract leasers for those places. So what would make you think that now we need more?
Councillor Reid.
Through to staff, reading through all the month that I get to read through, on this one, this is what the proponents are offering, is the commercial, but is there any time limit for them to build the commercial, or is this just a straight rezoning?
Through your worship, it is a straight rezoning at this time. Part of the next step would be to apply for a development permit and a building permit, so there's a number of steps prior to, seeing the facility in place.
And has the proponent indicated to you that they were going to be building right away, immediately, or is it to be rezoned and then we'll sit on it for a while until we find someone to buy it?
Certainly, your worship, all communications with the applicant have been in the positive that they would be proceeding as soon as they can. They're going through the process with the city, but they do want to proceed as soon as possible.
Okay. I think Ms. Tiffany had something.
Thank you, Councillor. Through your worship, I was just going to add for further clarification, staff are asking for only if council should grant readings, we're holding it at third reading and bringing fourth reading back with a development permit for the site.
Perfect. That was going to be my next question. Thank you very much.
Councillor Hodge.
Under this zoning, we cannot dictate through the zoning process hours of operation, can we? Is that kind of considered land use?
Yes. We have had a similar occurrence where there was a rezoning, and through a restrictive covenant, Section 219 covenant, we could place a covenant with respect to hours of operation for this use.
We could do that. At what point? At third reading?
That's correct.
Okay, thank you.
That's all, Mr. Hodge?
That's it. Thank you.
Okay. And am I call for any other speakers to this item, please? Any other speakers to this item? Come forward, please. Name and address, please.
Hello, my name is Rachel Niblock. I live at 817 Poirier Street. I'm approximately 5 houses in from Como Lake. That gas station has been a pain in the butt since we moved in. At the time, it was a 24-hour and the little store across from it was just a little mom and pop store. It really never was an issue for us. But the traffic since that gas station went big has been ridiculous, not just on Como Lake, but on Poirier Street. When we come out in the morning, it's gridlock in front of our house. People waiting to get into the gas station and people waiting to get out of the gas station on Poirier. On Como Lake, I see them doing stuff all the time. I hear the sirens coming. You know, we hear the crashes occasionally. We have garbage in our neighborhood from that development. I know that it has lowered the value of the property having that big development there. As a neighbor recently tried to sell and had to sell his place for considerably less, and he was told by the realtor the reasoning was that the gas station was too close to his house. So the closer you are to that property, the less the value of your property. So putting that development in is going to devalue my property. That's a residential area. I don't want to be in a commercial area. I'm 5 houses away. You say that to put that one lot that is currently commercial into residential would cost the city. Well, it's going to cost me if you put that other lot into commercial, and nobody is willing to compensate me for that. There's just so much of it that I feel is wrong for that area. We have Como Lake Village, and I understand there's a connection between Como Lake Village, developer-wise or owner-wise or something I read.
Aye.
When Como Lake Village was redesigned recently...
Speak into the mic.
Oh, sorry. I understood that there was a connection between this developer and Como Lake Village. Is that correct?
No, they're saying that there's not a connection. There's no connection.
Okay. Anyways, as a previous person said, there are businesses there since the redevelopment that are up for lease and are empty. So I do not see how having more business in the neighborhood will make any difference. And I noticed the only 2 people who got up and spoke positively about the development were people who were not directly in that vicinity within that 1 or 2 block radius. That's about it.
Okay. Thank you very much. Any other speakers to this item?
Hi, my name's Sarah Jane Niblock. Live in the same house, so 817 Poirier. I just basically wanted to say that everyone who's come here today and said that they were against this, I completely agree with pretty much all of their points. The biggest one I would agree with is traffic. I cannot, honestly, I can't even think, cannot count a number in my head of how many times I've almost been run over and killed in that intersection, to the point where I will entirely avoid that whole block radius, a block on each side of Como Lake, because of that intersection, and mostly because of the gas station. It is causing problems all the time. For walking, driving, it really doesn't matter. So I do not see how putting in more commercial will fix that problem that we already need to fix. As well as everyone else said, there's already, you pick a direction. It doesn't matter if you're going further into the residential, it doesn't matter if you're going one way on Poirier, one way on Como Lake, you'll find within a few blocks somewhere to buy most things that you need. And as my mother just pointed out, if you go to the Como Lake strip mall that they just redid, there's stores in there that have been empty since they opened. So I don't see how we're going to be able to fill these when we can't fill the ones that are literally a block away. So just wanted to say that.
Okay, thank you very much. Are there any other speakers to this item? Are there any other speakers to this item? Are any other speakers to this item? I called 3 times. I will close this item. Next item, Mr. Clerk.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Next item, item 2, is an application to amend City of Coquitlam zoning bylaw number 3000 to revise the calculation of lot area for density calculation purposes for properties zoned or rezoning to RM2, RM3, RM4, RM5, 6, C4, or C7 within the Evergreen Line core and shoulder areas.
This is a staff-initiated amendment to the zoning bylaw to add a provision which would permit the calculation of density based on the lot area prior to new road dedications. For sites located in the Evergreen core and shoulder areas, the core is highlighted in yellow, the shoulder is in green. The three neighborhoods that the core and shoulder run through is the city center, shown here, and Coquitlam and Lougheed. And properties that are zoned or rezoning to one of the medium to high density apartment zones, RM2, RM3, RM4, RM5, or RM6, or the C4 or C7 high density mixed use zones. Staff are recommending second, third, and fourth readings to bylaw number 4441, 2014.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, we have no registered speakers for this item.
Thank you. I'll call for speakers. Are there any speakers to this item? Are there any speakers to this item? For third and last time, are there any speakers to this item? Councillor Secor.
Yeah, thank you very much. To the Planning Department. This is also Coquitlam area. Now, I'd like to talk about Smith Avenue, Cottonwood, where there's about 1,100 residential rentals. And that's in here on this plan. Does that mean to say that those rental units will be gone and there'll be high-rises going in with bonus density, so therefore you couldn't put any rental places in there or affordable housing? Now, I'm just saying this myself, is this what's happening right now? Is this what the city's planning to do?
This is road dedication.
I know, that's all right.
This isn't through to staff, Mr. Brandon.
Through you, Your Worship, the zoning bylaw text amendment in front of council today is simply proposing to credit back any road dedication area that is consumed in a development proceeding that goes through a due application and review and approval process, separate from this current bylaw amendment, that if such application goes through that process, that the area associated with those road dedications dedicated as road would be credited back to the property and be able to be utilized in floor space ratio.
Okay.
And I know it's a road dedication, but however, it's shown as the different high rises, and again, what's the density as far as height is concerned? Restriction height in the Coquitlam Center and also in Coquitlam area.
Through you, Worship, this is not proposing to vary any other parts of our bylaws or zoning bylaw. Only the floor space ratio and the crediting back of the area associated with the road dedication into that calculation.
Okay, thank you.
Seeing no other others? I've called 3 times. Are there any other speakers to this item? Are there any other speakers to this item? Third and final time. Are there any other speakers to this item? I declare this item closed.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. That's the last formal item for this public hearing. I would request a slight recess so we can set up for the council meeting to follow.
Thank you. We'll recess for about 5 minutes and come back for a regular council meeting. Thank you.